From Kim Kardashian to James Bond to that one uncle who always takes over Christmas dinner with his conspiracy theories, life, art, and reality shows are filled with characters. And in today's episode, we're gonna get to know a few of them a little better.
I'm in between like Norman Rockwell and striving to be like Francis Bacon.
They assessed the cost of therapy, and I was like, well, at least with drag, I get to keep stuff.
It is always to poke fun at and put a little light in your head. Say, oh, okay then. Mass and activism, they go hand in hand. When the post-emancipated took to the streets to celebrate his emancipation, he was protesting as well. I am Roma Spencer, and I am the director and writer of Via Le Coup, put on by the Friends of the Pan Am Path here at the Bentway. What we're doing is presenting traditional carnival as it was presented by my ancestors, the post-emancipated African, back in the day. That mass is still played here in Trinidad and Tobago. It's not something that you see here in Toronto. One thing that I want to emphasize, the regular fare of the, the bath suit and the wire bra and bikini and beads, there is more to the carnival than that. You'll see such characters like the Hero Grenade, Dame Lorraine, Baby Doll, the Speech Band, and Midnight Robber, which I play. They were created by the post-emancipated African male and female in Trinidad and Tobago.
It's very important to look back and say, where did these things come from? And how did these beautiful and amazing art practices emerge?
The Baby Doll was a statement on renegade fathers. The Midnight Robber was straight out of a Western film. Then you had the Dame Lorraine, always played by men, so it was a drag mass. Big breast, big bottom, mimicking the French Madame. Scandal and Bacchanal.
And I, as the Piero Grenade.
The Piero Grenade, he's a teacher who teaches you how to spell. So we are opening up to this generation, hey, there's another world view to the carnival that was created by my ancestors out of a place of emancipation, a place of protest. One of the reasons I was told by the late Charlie Roach, who was one of the architects of this Caribana, is that when it was presented as a gift to the nation in 1967, they wanted to present the pretty side of the mass, the pretty mass, because the world in 1967 was in upheaval. At that time was the Vietnam War, and they didn't want this part of the mass presented because it would encourage the protesters, people to come out and couch themselves inside of that to protest the situation. So they gave to the nation the pretty side of the carnival, the pretty mass, and that is what we still see. It's never to disrupt, all right? It is always to poke fun at, to make you laugh, and just shed a little light. Put a little light in your head. Say, oh, okay then.
Sherlock Holmes, Jane Eyre, Mary Poppins, even Santa Claus. These are fictional people that have become household names for good reason, but I'm glad that your household has now also heard the names Midnight Robber and Speech Band. I really wish you guys had the chance to see the Jab Jab of Grenada. That's a carnival character inspired by the ghost of a murdered slave who comes back to haunt his master, but that might be a little much for the start of the show. Welcome to CBC Arts Exhibitionists. I'm Amanda Paris. You may have guessed our theme for today's episode, Characters. From the ones we create through our art to the real people who inspire them, we are doing a deep dive into the histories, communities, and self-exploration behind the creation of some captivating characters. Our next artist is so inspired by the people that populate her everyday world, she decided to begin making piñata versions of them. Take a look.
When I tell people I'm a piñata artist, probably the most common reaction is, what? And I have to kind of explain to them that it's not a traditional piñata. I make caricature piñatas of your loved ones for celebrations. My name is Meaghan Kennedy. I'm a piñata artist, and I'm based out of Vancouver. I think that there is an assumption that I make people that you don't like. I like making people that I admire. I feel like we have a tendency to really focus on the negative things these days, and I want to shed light on awesome people. I've been a huge fan of Sarah Harmer's for a really long time. I just think she's amazing. This pink video was so breathtaking with Janelle Monáe that I watched it and within 5 minutes was sitting at my desk having to make her. The process for me is really very much like when you were a kid. Like I blow up balloons, I mix flour and water together, I rip newspapers apart. I mean, it's so much fun. Aren't these great? I think these are gonna be like, I mean, they don't have reflective lenses, but I think they're gonna be amazing. The personal details are what really makes it a hit. I'm currently working on a project right now where I am doing a bunch of people from my community who frequent this coffee shop up the street from here. I think it's really important at this moment in time for me to highlight people in my community. Our neighborhood is kind of under attack right now with a lot of condo developments going in, a lot of rents going up and reno evictions. You know, you hear this all the time. And just a lot of just a feeling of displacement. And so for me, it's really important to connect with community right now. We're resilient, we got this, we're gonna be good. We just have to remember who we are. What stands out about piñatas for me is that they're made with a purpose, right? Like I make them to destroy them. And there's something so delightful about that. I realized when we smashed the first piñata that I ever made that it kind of creates this like collective memory for the whole room to experience. And I really enjoy that everyone, all ages, all different walks of life can get excited and participate in something together. Make a piñata, it could change your life.
I'll be bringing you stories of art that explains the boring parts, the controversial parts, and just the parts you don't understand. Oh, hello. I'm Professor Lise, and I've just been in my library researching piñatas. Piñatas, the hollow containers that are usually filled with candy, hung from the ceiling, and obliterated by your drunk uncle at your 6th birthday party. We most often associate them with Mexico. Piñata literally means jug or pot, and it's always been a way of smashing stuff to celebrate and make it rain with candy. But depending on who you ask, the form of the piñata comes from a lot of different places. One theory sees their history start in China, where the pots were made in animal shapes, filled with seeds, and hit with sticks. And it may be that Marco Polo brought the tradition to Italy in the 13th century, where the form was called a piñata, which may translate to pine cone. From there it went to Spain, and then it came to Mexico and the rest of the Americas, when missionaries would use it to lure indigenous people to convert to Catholicism. And there are more theories. That the piñata already was in use by the Aztecs, that they'd fill a jar with stuff, decorate it, and smash it to celebrate the god of war. There's a story about the Mayans using it too. But in Mexico, the piñata has stayed the course and gets broken when people are celebrating the days before Christmas and at birthday parties. It's also stuck around in Denmark, Italy, Catalonia, India, Japan, and the Philippines, and that's not even necessarily a complete list. Thanks for joining me on this edition of Art 101. I'm Professor Lise, and you'll see me again to explain mysteries, boring terms, and controversies from the world of art.
Hi, my name is Firth. I'm this week's exhibitionist in residence. I currently live in Vancouver, BC, where I make animated loops, and I'm originally from California. Take a look.
Coming up, I head to the studio of prolific graffiti artist Elicser to get the 411 on the signature characters in his work.
Graffiti, the slogans and markings which deface or disfigure.
They should do something about catching the kids that are doing the painting and straightening them out, because it doesn't look good.
So thank you for welcoming me to your studio.
Yeah, no problem.
Very
Thanks
excited
for,
to be
coming
here.
by and checking it out.
This is your living and workspace. How do you balance all of that?
I have this theme where it's called everything is Tetris, life is Tetris. There's a spot for everything.
I've seen your work on walls, on electrical boxes, on trees. Can you tell me about how it got to the point that you realized that the outside world was a canvas?
I thought of writing on everything in high school. It's, I guess you sort of leave your mark, you know? It sounds really cliche, but that's technically what we're doing, you know? We're like leaving our mark.
Do you feel like the perception around public art in Toronto has changed since you've started creating, and how has it changed?
Yeah, definitely changed.
Graffiti, increasing complaints to the city about this kind of stuff on both public and private buildings.
It started last summer, I believe, with 2 or 3 different people. Now it's gotten to a point where we've been able to identify roughly 20 different tags that have been going up.
It's kind of like their signature, basically. And they try to get lots of area like that, so they're like well known.
I don't see it as political. People see it differently. They take away their different ideas from it. I'm happy that it's happening, but I feel bad I'm the last leg of gentrification sometimes. It's kind of like, yeah, I wish we were included more in the process of getting to that point, so it doesn't feel like it's just like, yeah, put some color on it and it's great, you know?
We haven't gentrified, we have graffiti.
Yeah, exactly, you know what I mean?
Can you tell me a little bit about the characters in your work?
I'm trying to get away from this, but it's a lot to do with, like, directly my life, that kind of thing. I'm not a political painter. A lot of my stuff is dealing with, like, love and lack thereof. I really want to see what that would look like, you know? But that hasn't happened yet. So we continue to get these pieces.
Well, the best love songs are generally not about the happy love, so maybe there's something there.
Yeah, exactly, you know? But I just want to make one of those, like a nice, like, club track. You know, like a nice, like, let's take this to
feel
Ibiza.
good.
Let's do it. This is from Prosopagnosia, in the show I had at Project Gallery. This one whole story is happening in this one guy's head. Kind of like to batter my pieces. See the negative space I'm talking about? Yeah. It's like beautiful, but then all these things happen and you see them and you're like, ah. And then this part is the touched a million times light switch. I mean, where we're trying to have the sense of
like the grit,
yeah,
you know,
grits,
the urban decay.
Yeah, that totally works right there. Don't look at that part.
So tell me about what you're working on right now.
There is this show that's happening at the McMichael Gallery for Contact.
Okay, but you're not a photographer, and Contact is a photography festival, so what are you doing specifically?
I think they just want to bring that feeling out that is in the photos, because the show's called Everything Remains Raw. And I guess we're there just with the graph to sort of add that, like, still that element that is still connected to, like, the 90s, right?
We don't want to become thought police down here at City Hall, I think, on something like this. If it was a major problem across the city, then perhaps we'd have to look at something. I don't think it is.
I think a lot of the graffiti expresses political dissent, and I think it's important that that's there.
I strive to be a perfect artist. If I think of an artist, I think like somebody has to like paint something perfect how the fruit looks, like you paint the fruit bowl exactly how it looks. But then on the other side of me, there's the expression side where it's like I'm in between like Norman Rockwell striving to be and like striving to be like Francis Bacon, you know? And if you like mix those two, you would get better than my work, and that's what I'm trying to get to.
Coming up, we'll meet Jonathan, a librarian by day who becomes Lourdes, the Mary Virgin, by night.
My name is Lourdes the Mary Virgin, and I am from Edmonton, Alberta. All right. That was real. As of right now, I'm 37 years old, and I work for the Edmonton Public Library. We did drag story time for the first time for Pride. I rewrote 5 Little Monkeys and turned it into 5 Clumsy Drag Queens, because the kids still love 5 Little Monkeys. And I'm currently attempting to put it into the form of a children's book. Okay, so mineral. I saw Rocky Horror for the first time. My mom had asked me how the movie was, and I said, oh, it was good. And she's like, you know how I feel about transvestites, and I was like, or I think she might even said transsexuals, I'm not even sure, but one of those words. And I was like, and I still didn't even know what it was after watching it. And I said, well, what is that? And she's like, oh, it's like men who wear women's clothes. And I said, oh, okay. And she's like, yeah, I think it's disgusting. I think it's sick. A little late now, though.
One more and I forget everything. Whoa, Mamma Mia.
I was 33 years old when I started doing official, what I would call drag, here in Edmonton. I was inspired by RuPaul's Drag Race. I was thinking about going into therapy just because I was kind of unhappy. And I was like, I need to unblock this. And I was a fan of watching movies and TV shows with therapy in them, and I thought it was glamorous. But I assessed the cost of therapy, and I was like, well, at least with drag, I get to keep stuff. But I'd heard RuPaul describe drag as therapy, so I was like, okay, we'll do that. We'll try it. Hopefully that's going to be tight enough. Lourdes is probably also introverted, I think, because I'm pretty... People have regarded me as shy at shows. I can be my awkward, wacky self that's kind of like anxious and just rambly. And if I own it, people think it's funny. This is turning out really beautiful. It's very satisfying and it's therapeutic, and it clears my head. Lourdes, I guess, is just definitely a character. I think the best description of it ever was art house sex doll. Tonight at the Garneau Theatre, I'll be doing shortcuts. I do a lot of mixes with a story to them. They're pretty dialogue heavy.
Oh, sorry, you're not smoking.
I'm smoking hot.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So it's a scene from Shortcuts with Julianne Moore arguing with her husband about an affair that she had.
Everybody put your hands together for our last performer of the evening, Lourdes the Mary Virgin!
Damn it, look at this! Look what you made me do! God damn it! I wanted to wear this! Okay, Ralph! Ralph, you want to know what happened? He right there in the car! I was drunk! It didn't mean anything to me! I wish it hadn't happened, but it did! Is that all? Is that all you want to know? Is that all?
I think it's so much more interesting when you're feeling more than one emotion at once. And I think with drag, that when you're feeling like it's slightly misogynistic or you're feeling like it's slightly appropriating, that's what makes it art.
Ralph, he didn't come at me.
I mean, we're not watching the Notebook or a Nicholas Sparks adaptation. Let's make it weird. Let's go there. I will be doing Meryl Streep tonight at the Stiletto Awards. The Stiletto Awards are the Oscars for Edmonton Drag, where we celebrate the best of Edmonton Drag. think the one thing when you scrub out of drag, there's a split-second moment where you kind of get a glimpse of what you look like and like outside of yourself. But it's kind of cool. I noticed it the first time I ever painted myself. Once it was washed off, I was like, oh my God, that's my face. And I don't hate it either.
That's all.
I love how deep Jonathan got with the levels of character performance. So Jonathan plays Lourdes, Lourdes plays Julianne Moore, while she plays the character Marion Wyman. Jonathan is going to Inception levels of performance. Eat your heart out, Leo. That last doc was part of our amazing series, Canada's a Drag, which puts a spotlight on drag queens and kings from across the country. You can watch it anytime on the CBC TV app. So that's our show. Tune in next week for another deep dive into the Canadian art world. If there is an artist that you think should be on CBC Arts Exhibitionists, or if you just want to share your own favorite characters with me, the famous ones, the everyday ones, the ones that only get to come alive on karaoke night, I'd love to hear about them. Send me a message on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. Our handle is @CBC Arts. Peace. Here's a time lapse of the artist Heather Buchanan at work. She made an entire series about characters from film and TV eating. You may recognize this guy.